The conservative dirty tricks you see today are nothing new. They go back decades, and in some cases even centuries. You know the war on Christmas?
We've won the first battle in the war on Christmas.
That goes back to 1959. Far-right founder of the John Birch Society, Robert Welch, had written a pamphlet saying that globalists were trying to replace conventional Christmas decorations with United Nations insignia. Joseph McCarthy and his unhinged conspiracies are a treasure trove for this kind of deja vu. In a deranged rant in 1951, McCarthy asked how you could account for our present situation without thinking that there were men in high-ranking positions actively plotting against the country. This is an old-time favorite because you can apply it to anyone. Right now, I'd say Mark Milley and the president are popular choices, but really slap that label on whoever you want. In 1954, Utah Governor J. Bragg Lee followed McCarthy's lead. He gave a speech talking about how communist subversives had contaminated our schools and churches. 70 years later,
when did our public schools, any schools, become what are essentially grooming centers for gender identity radicals?
There's a fascinating diary entry written by Eisenhower aide C.D. Jackson. He talks about how McCarthy had tried to establish McCarthyism as republicanism. If you didn't support him, you were either a fool or a protector of communism. Tucker Carlson is saying the same stuff today, and he doesn't even have to change the name. During Kevin McCarthy's mess of a speaker vote, Tucker villainized all but the 20 Republicans who stood against McCarthy. He said McCarthy led a neocon faction that wasn't conservative enough, and that you, the viewer, was being seen as a terrorist by the other fake Republicans.
Congressman Dan Crenshaw of Texas, a surrogate for Kevin McCarthy, did. In fact, he did what neocons always do. He labeled anyone he doesn't like a terrorist.
It's the same crap every time. During the 1970s, Miami approved a law that banned discrimination for housing based on sexual orientation. A woman named Anita Bryant led a campaign against that called Save Our Children. You know, from the gays. It's been 50 years and Republicans are still using kids as an excuse to oppress LGBTQ people. And they haven't even changed the tagline.
They want to sexualize our children and our children's childhoods.
Molding children within the view of these marginalized extremists.
This is an attack on your children, and you should fight back.
Oh, and the Illuminati conspiracies? Those go back to the 1700s as a scapegoat for the French Revolution. During the quasi-war between America and the French at the turn of the century, an American named Jedediah Morse used that conspiracy to push forward his own. France was actually trying to abolish all government and Christianity. Sound familiar?
It's an America in which transgender dominates Christianity.
It's all the same stuff, repackaged in a shiny new container that oppresses a different, or maybe the same, minority. It's important to know that. It makes it easier to not take the bait. And yes, this is all dangerous, this is all destructive. But it's also boring and tired. Conservatives, get some new material. Most of the examples I used in this video you can find in David Korn's American Psychosis, a historical investigation of how the Republican Party went crazy. It's a great book. I can't recommend it enough. These examples honestly came from like the first third of the book. There's so much information. I monitor conservatives for work, but I make fun of them for pleasure. You can find more of my stuff on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok.